Welcome to The Passion Pod with your host, Chris Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the feature presentation.
Welcome back, friends. Today we're sitting in a studio just outside of Eau Claire. I had to drive through some construction, but thankfully it was still only like a 15-minute drive away from my house. But the cool part about where I live is 15 minutes away from my house, we're like nothing like where my house is. I'm the inner city kid in like Eau Claire, so it's not really a whole lot of a city, but we actually have some space out here. Thank you so much for coming. We have Bex from the band Laska on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming here. How far of a drive was it for you?
We came from the Twin Cities area today, so
yeah. But are you based in LA or are you in?
I guess yeah. So then, if you think of it that way, then came from LA. Yes.
All the way for the Passion Pod. That's tight. Thank you so much for that. But no, what are you in town for?
We're playing Midwest Music Fest on Friday. So
where is that?
It's in La Crosse.
Oh, okay, cool. And you guys are back to touring and doing a whole lot of places, or when's the next tour coming up?
So we just finished a round of touring this summer.
Where was the tour at?
We did 2 legs of touring. The first leg was Southeast area, so we did Nashville in Cincinnati area. And then we did 2 weeks on the West Coast. So we went up to Portland and Seattle, played in neighboring cities in that area. And yeah, it was great.
How do you find time to do that? What do you do for work outside of music? Or are you 100% full-time music right now?
No.
Because convincing your boss, like, I'm just going to be gone when I want is like kind of hard, right?
It's extremely hard. I actually quit my job right before touring this summer. That's kind of how it goes that way.
Sure.
With musicians a lot. If you have like longer tours, a lot of times it leads to an end of a career and not really like compensation, to match that at the end of tour. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of people just have like placeholder apartment situations, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's
it. You have to get really scrappy really quick when you're touring with money.
Well, let's talk about scrappiness. You grew up where? Around here, Baldwin?
Yeah. We grew up in Baldwin on a farm.
Okay,
in
so
Wisconsin.
The band, quick, because a lot of people listening may not be fully aware, is consistent of a whole bunch of people, but primarily kind of formed through you and your 2 sisters, right? Can you tell me who's all in the band, what they do within the band?
We're a 6-piece band. There's the 3 of us are sisters. We all sing and we play and we write songs.
What do you play?
I play violin, mostly in Laska, and then my other 2 sisters play guitar.
And you started playing violin when you were 3?
Oh
no! When did you start playing music?
We started really young. I think I was like 5 or so when I started playing violin.
Who was teaching you? Did your parents get you into like an instructor where you're going several times a week, or like what was it like when you got into music?
We were in intense like Suzuki classical training for close to 10 years. Yeah, as kids. So it was like we practiced for hours a day and had private lessons, group lessons. It was a big part of our life.
Which sister are you as far as like the elder, middle, younger one?
Middle.
You're the middle one.
I know. Yeah.
Awesome. So you had to live into one person's shadow, but then you also had to lead the example for somebody else.
Something like that.
I got to be the baby in the situation. So for me, it was like super easy because my sister would mess up on this, that, or whatever, and everything was like golden. Yeah. I just had to not make the same mistakes she had. So growing up, you started taking the lessons. How long was it before you started doing like rehearsals and stuff? Because you must have been doing those, right? Like performing in front of people to be graded and all that type of stuff?
Exactly.
How did that work? Were you being like going around Minneapolis area? Were your parents like, how old were you when you were doing all that, getting used to being in front of eyes?
We did there was every year for Suzuki, there was if you passed a book, you would perform at what is it called? Yeah, Orchestra Hall. We would perform there every year.
How many people were in the Orchestra Hall, if you had to guess? Was it like a huge sea, or was it like 5 judges sitting there?
It was full of people because it was like families from all over the world would come. So that was like our first experience performing for people was at the Orchestra Hall.
Were you performing together or individually?
We were performing with our like graduating books.
Okay.
So we were on stage with like 100 people or so, and we were in different books.
Oh, okay. So how does it get graded? Does like one group get you know what I mean? It's like a competition
Yeah.
of sorts, right? So how
Yeah,
do they
you-
decide who gets what? Is it like as an entire group, or do you individually get graded in some kind of way?
So you have to audition. Once you complete a book, like the last song of the book, you send to the judges, and that's your audition. And then if you pass, then you go to orchestra hall and you perform for all these people. So the orchestra hall is like more of like a celebration performance than it is like an audition. You've already
Oh,
passed
sure.
once you get to the orchestra hall.
Okay, gotcha.
You have to be good enough to play with all these people. You have to play the same song. So you have to like audition in order to play with everyone else. You have to be good enough to play it.
Sure.
So,
Did you play more than just like the one time at the end celebration? Was it something where it's like this orchestra gets to go perform at this event and whatever?
it's not a moving event.
No,
it's just like
a one time a year
one time.
type of thing.
Yeah.
So that's what got you really comfortable, like on a microphone in front of people.
I think everything helps. Like exposure like that, of course, will help you.
Right.
I would say we had no experience when we started performing together. We had none. We just like threw ourselves in. And
At what age were you guys like together? Like, okay, well, let's do something that's not violin. Let's start playing. Because you didn't just like start playing guitar and recording and
No.
like performing, right? So
No, it
what was
wasn't
kind of the
linear.
story arc?
it wasn't linear like that at all. We started in high school. We started playing all together. Started doing random shows, really weird little gigs and stuff.
Were your parents bummed that you were like practicing guitar instead of violin at that point after all those years? Or like, how did you pick up a different instrument?
There was a turnover for sure, like in our teens where we like rebelled against, classical music and like violin and didn't want to be a part of that world, right? And then started playing other things, started writing songs.
Did you get right into like punk rock garage music, or what drew you away? What was it? Was it folk music right away? What were you into?
I think for me, I don't think I got back to like folk and country music till later after school.
Yeah. So what was it that drew you away?
I don't know. I feel like it was probably more like indie pop music that was maybe more acceptable. I think in high school everyone just wants to fit in. So like it's probably more traditional like pop and
what was the first show
radio,
you remember going to?
what you would hear on the radio and
Sure.
stuff.
Did you go to like Warped Tour, or what was the first show you remember going to?
I did go to Warped Tour.
What was the band you wanted to see at Warped Tour at the time?
Probably some like white guy like act. I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know.
Okay, so how did it
long ago.
How did it come up for the first show? How long were you performing like together? How long were you practicing? How many songs did you have written? Was it purely cover stuff?
Yeah.
What did it go like for the first show? Where was it?
We started by playing only covers, and we like had sheet music and did the whole thing.
Covers for what kind of music?
Like we did like what? Like this, like we would cover like a lot of Sister Act songs. Like, I think we did some of like the First Aid Kit and like some of the Staves and there's other things too. I'll let other sisters answer some other questions. They've got things to say, I'm sure. So.
Sure. Where was the first performance? Was it at your school, like talent show type thing, or was it like you got asked to perform at your friend's wedding? Like a relative, or what was the situation?
I think one of our first shows was here at Pine Hollow.
Okay, what's Pine Hollow?
No? On campus. It was in Eau Claire. It was somewhere here in Eau Claire, yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Even though you were from Baldwin, your first show wasn't in Baldwin.
No.
When was the first
No.
time you played in Baldwin?
We did a reunion show there, like in high school.
Oh,
It was like, okay.
What do
We've
you
never
mean by-
had that much support from a hometown. It's just so small, and it's a very traditional, small, like farming community where you don't really leave
Yeah.
kind of vibe, where you just like, you go to school, you go to college, you stay, have a family, get married. It's like all the same.
Yeah.
So I feel like there isn't much attraction or interest from our hometown community of Baldwin specifically. It's so small.
Yeah.
I would say that the greater like Menominee, Eau Claire area, there's more appreciation for music and culture and art and love for those things, that we built a community there immediately, where it's just like that was our home base.
How did you
It was in
build that
Baldwin.
community? Was it like hanging out with friends that you met through high school or whatever and going to like random friends' parties and stuff? Or how did you start to build a little bit of a community around the music?
I went to school at UW Stout.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then my sister went to school in Eau Claire. So that's kind of how we started meeting people in that community and meeting other artists, other musicians. And then we met Evan, who does all of our recording here at Pine Hollow. And he was a huge foot in the door for the music world. And like, he like really was a mentor for all of us and like gave us that exposure to that art and music and culture.
I feel like you have to have somebody. I mean, even in the age of the internet where you can kind of just Google things and figure out how things work to a certain degree, especially if you want to have actual instruments and have it all mastered and whatnot. It's not quite the same thing as like a trap beat that you buy from somebody and just, you know, rap to.
No,
it's a little bit different of a situation.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. We knew nothing, like absolutely nothing. As far as like technical sides of music, we were very like ignorant. We didn't know what that world was like. Evan was the one that did all of that and really pushed us to the next place.
Sure. How long were you performing before you actually like put out your own music? Because you didn't record it right away, right? You must have like had songs that you written and you were performing at things before you even like sat down to record anything.
Yeah, we had a few residencies in Minneapolis, and then we were doing some shows in Eau Claire and writing music, performing music. We played at this like Jamaican kitchen called Pimento in Minneapolis for like years. And like that's where we got a lot of exposure to, and like where we would write a lot of songs and bring them there and play them for people for the first time.
Yeah. Almost like your open mic, except you have it set up. How often was the residency? Was it like once every week? Okay.
Or something like that. It was like every other week or something. Yeah.
Sure.
It felt like a lot, but yeah.
Sure. For how long were you doing that?
Years. Yeah. Maybe 3-4 years.
When was the first time you went on like a tour where you decided like you don't want to do residencies necessarily anymore? It's like expanded where you can start booking all of these shows all over the place.
Yeah. Our first tour. I think we did a Midwest tour maybe in like 2017.
Oh, okay. So quite a while ago. Was this long before you moved out to LA then?
Yeah.
Okay. When did you move to LA?
I moved to LA 2 years ago.
What drew you out there? Obviously, like you were in Baldwin, you didn't want to be in Baldwin, but it sounds like you built a community around like Menominee, Eau Claire. You finally have like a cool home with a friend group and everything's there. Why'd you want to go to the not so nice smelling huge city of opportunity?
Not so nice smelling opportunity. I was attracted to the community out there. It's very diverse.
Yeah.
Out there, which I appreciate, and the music is great.
What part did you move to?
We were on the west side at first.
Did you move with your sister into the same spot?
I moved and lived with Mookie, younger sister, for a year.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's been great. I think we moved there for music, found a lot more than music out there. It's been really nice.
How did you end up affording the bills? Did you line up a whole apartment and job and everything via Zoom meetings before you went? Or how did you make it work? Because I think a lot of people have this idea of moving to LA, and it's a lot harder than, I think a lot of kids realize.
It's very romanticized.
Yeah.
It still is. And it's not easy. It's extremely hard to live there. I don't think it's for everyone. And I think it's very hard. I think that if you work hard, though, you can do anything you want and you can really make ends meet. Yeah. We grew up working really hard, and that's what we're used to.
Sure.
So I think that like if you grow up working hard and having that ambition and like a dream, then you can really do whatever you want, wherever you want, but it's not easy.
Yeah, I feel like people have that understanding even out in LA that people from the Midwest have a different kind of work ethic. Mm-hmm. We just have a little bit of a different attitude just because of our upbringing. It's a little bit different here. It's not quite as cutthroat, and it's just a different situation. Do you see that when you go out there, that everyone seems to be eyeing you up for like, how does this benefit me? How can I work with this person, whether or not they're like fit in my plan? because that's typically what I feel out there. And I don't blame anyone out there for that situation, because I get how cutthroat it is. Like if you want to succeed, you kind of have to work multiple jobs, and it's you can't waste your time really. You're there on like a mission, you know, versus around here, you assume most of the people you're talking to aren't going to have anything to do with your career. You know, it's just a different situation. But do you feel that, or do you experience that a lot out there?
Yeah. I work as a farmer now in LA, surprisingly, like believe it or not. So I feel like I am fully exploited as a worker in LA a lot right now. But so in many ways, my work ethic is very, like people are very attracted to it.
Yeah.
And I've been told by many people in like the agricultural community, like it's hard to find people that will work hard, and it's extremely like laborious work.
What do you do farming wise? Like what kind of farming? My buddy owns a bee farm out there, but I'm assuming you're not like a beekeeper.
No.
So what do you do, and how do you do it in LA? Because you must have to go outside of the city to a certain degree, or what's the situation?
Not too much. There's a lot of urban farms out there, so small 1 to 2 acre farms. But I work with a farmer out there doing vegetable production, and then we sell at a farmer's market in Atwater.
Oh, cool. Okay. So what's been the most beneficial thing about moving to LA? Has it been like a personal growth situation of like experience different life things, or has it been music related? What have been some of the reasons that moving to LA was a good idea for you?
So many. I think being out there really pushed me, and I'm really grateful for the relationships I've built. And then I'm really grateful that it's brought me back to doing what I love, like farming and working. I work with horses as well.
And you grew up around horses, I'm assuming then?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it just like brought me back to what I did as a kid, which is really weird.
Yeah. Well, I think that happens though with a lot of people. When you're younger, you think the grass is greener everywhere else.
Yeah.
And it's not just location, it's with what your parents do or anything you're around. You're like, everything's gonna be better.
Yeah.
And it's not. You know, you go experience other things, and then you have an appreciation for where you're from and everything you grew up in. And it doesn't mean you have to have like the exact same thing.
Right.
But you kind of build your own version of what that is. You know, I'm actually in the same house that I grew up in. I sold my first house and bought like my childhood home, which I always wanted to get out of. And now I love the house. It's like super dope.
That's cool.
I think it's time to get to our first song break. I want you to pick a song that you wrote, because you all do songwriting, you know, parts of it. But what's a song that you wrote or had a heavy hand in writing? And it's you have a new album, right? What's the album that you're like currently riding the wave of?
Endless Patcher.
Endless Patcher. Okay, so what's a song from that album that you were the main writer of, and a little bit of the story behind it before we play it?
So the song I'm choosing is Dog Bite. It's the second song on the record.
Were you bitten by a dog?
It's metaphorical. Yeah.
My dog will bite you. He's a little 8-pound terrier.
Really?
I didn't bring him here specifically because he bites people all the time. It's horrible.
That would have been pretty ironic. But yeah.
So what's the story behind it?
It's just about like relationships with people, and how we communicate with people, and how we like have all these like pre-assumptions of who we know. But a lot of times it's just all misled, and it's like miscommunication.
Yeah. I think most people want to be genuine. You just have to like ask the right questions and give them a safe space to be genuine with you.
Huh.
You know what I mean? A lot of people have all these walls defensively because they're worried about being bitten by the other person all the time. But if you can provide a safe space for them, typically you can kind of figure out who they actually are.
Yeah.
And get beyond that like facade in front that people put up. I mean, if you look at me, I look like I'm a drug dealer or something. Or maybe like I stopped drug dealing a little while ago, but I have like a lump sum of money that I bought jewelry with. But like I own a skateboard shop. I'm like heavily involved in youth things. I don't...
Sure.
Like, it's not my life at all, but that's what everybody thinks of me, especially with owning a skateboard shop. You know, they think of like, I'm this rebel. It's like, I'm actually like a city official, you know, surprisingly. I don't look like one, you know, but it's just people put up a front for whatever they want to look like. All right, let's hit Dog Bite from Empty Patcher?
Endless Patcher.
Endless Patcher.
Yeah. stuck these days, filling up with doubt. Shadows follow, talk tomorrow. Guilt grows through a dark night, like a dog bite. Were the bad things about her just too hard to forget? She asked for nothing, somehow she even got less. Can't keep a secret, does it twist like a knife? Lash out with your fist, make it feel alright. Shadows follow, talk tomorrow. Guilt grows through a dark night, like a dog bite. Shadows follow, talk tomorrow. Guilt grows through a dark night, like a dog bite. Kissing in that light.
I'm so stoked that we already got to play one song and we have two more. Welcome to the show, Mookie from, I don't even know what your actual last name is, but from the band Laska. What's your last name?
Morton,
Morton.
Yeah.
Rad. Okay, well, thanks for coming to the show.
Thank
You
you.
came from where?
LA also, same as
Man.
Bex.
Okay, did you have a direct flight at least?
Yeah, no, I won't do layovers anymore from
Yeah.
LA because I come home so often. It's just too much.
Sure. How often do you fly back? Because when I lived in Minneapolis area, I was like, I'm moving to the big city. Like, I hate Eau Claire, blah, blah, blah. And then I ended up coming back to Eau Claire every month because I'm like, this place is actually way cooler than people realize.
Yeah, totally. I come back a lot, especially for shows and recording and stuff.
Sure. So why do you want to live in LA? What's been beneficial for you out there?
LA has been really hard for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think I moved out there because Bex and my boyfriend Kale both were like, I'm going to move to LA at the same time. And I was like, I didn't really have anything holding me here
Sure.
besides Laska, but it was like in the middle of the pandemic. So, we weren't playing shows. We weren't really doing anything. And I was just kind of just like, why am I here? And I was like, it makes sense to move somewhere else and try it and just,
Sure.
grow in that sense.
I didn't even think about that fact that you moved during the pandemic. So how did that work? What'd you do for work when you moved during the pandemic? There's no jobs as it is.
Yeah, I think we got really lucky because Bex used to live out in LA and she had a job there at a clothing shop
Oh, okay.
before. At the time when we moved there, it had been like 4 years before that. So
Yeah.
6 years ago, she lived there for a short period of time. And so we both got hired there.
Doing like sales management? Like what'd you do
Just
there?
retail. Yeah.
Retail stuff?
Mhm,
And that was enough
retail.
to pay your bills?
It was hard,
Yeah.
but we worked full time.
Sure.
And, neither of us had cars, so we biked 5 miles to work, worked all day, biked 5 miles back. Like we, it was a lot of work. And also we were really blessed because the owners of the shop were, pretty generous
Yeah.
with what they would pay us because they knew our circumstances.
Sure.
So they helped us out a little bit.
And they were cool with you like flying all the way back all the time, even though you worked full time.
It was definitely kind of difficult with that job in particular, just because, with any boss, it's just overwhelming for their employees to be out of town all the time.
Yeah, of course.
So it was kind of like stressful,
Yeah.
but since then I've like made that disclaimer interviewing with jobs where I'm like, this is my situation, and if it doesn't work for you, then I won't work here. So
Right. Yeah, I think it's important to be upfront with people because then they're going to be understanding anyways when the situation comes up. So what was music like before you left? The music obviously changed. The whole industry, life changed in general after the pandemic. But before you were all here, it was relatively easy to go do stuff and write music and all that. How much music did you write? What was life like touring and all that before you left? And then how was the contrast? Like what happened when you moved?
yeah. Well, we toured, I would say, once a year to twice a year.
For how long?
So usually like a week or two.
Oh, short ones.
So
Just Midwest stuff?
we did short tours, and then Midwest, and we did also the Pacific Northwest before we moved, and I think we did a Southeast tour as well. So we would do like short runs a few times a year, and then we would play shows in the area very consistently. So during the pandemic, I mean, all of that stopped. All of shows stopped. All tours stopped. So it was like black and white. Yeah.
When you moved then, how did you write music? Did you like set your iPhone in front of you and then record a little something, send it as a voice memo and say, hey, do you want to just kind of play around with this? Or did you all hop on a Zoom meeting and then you're playing through that? Or how do you even kind of connect in that kind of way?
We all write individually. So yeah, I would, if I had an idea for a song, I would voice memo it on my phone and send it and be like, what do you guys think of this? Do you want to work on it? You know, next time we're in the studio.
Sure.
And we'd go from there.
How often do you go to the studio though? It can't be that crazy often, right?
No. I mean, during the pandemic, we didn't really do any recording. Maybe we did one set of recording. So like if we come home for Christmas, we'll usually come home a few days early, get in the studio, do some recording, or like for this example, we have a show. Yeah. And so we're here, you know, a few days early to do some recording. It's sporadic, but we do it pretty quick. We kind of have a system down now. So
I was going to say, isn't it stressful to come in knowing like, okay, I have a bunch of unfinished songs that are like kind of there, but not fully there. We got to lock these all in, perform them, get them ready, then record them as well. And like, that's kind of a lot to do, right? Most people have a song kind of dialed in and have already performed it around before they record it.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely different than I think a lot of people do it, because we will often take a song to the studio before we ever play it live.
Right.
That happens a lot. So, yeah, it's definitely a different system, but I think over the years we've figured it out.
Do you ever have it happen where you record the song and then you start performing it and you kind of want to change what the song's like? Because normally you develop a song a little bit through performing, right?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's always hard to revisit old songs, especially if you've moved on from that mentality or that space you were in. So definitely that happens. But it's just like, I think it's hard to not constantly want to develop, you know, and like you have a song and you want to recreate it, you want to do a little different, you want to change the lyric, but I think there's just like an art in like letting something be. You know, there's a point where it's like you just have to let it be how it is, you know, you can't develop it anymore.
Sure. So how come a lot of people, when they start to develop as musicians, they just want to do their own thing? And I know like you make your own music, but what keeps driving you back to be like, even though we don't live in the same area of the country, I don't want to just focus on my own music exclusively. I really want to do Laska. Why is it? Is it just because you're sisters, or like what is it about it that make you want to do that so much?
It's about like the whole band. I just think that we have a really, really beautiful like creative connection.
Yeah.
Like, it's just that, well, first of all, having 3 writers is really great because we have endless amount of songs and they're also diverse. And it just like, it shows a lot of different voices all compact into one thing. And I just think that's really cool. And also it's just really fun. Like being with Laska is really fun. And I always enjoy hanging out with the crew.
Of course.
So.
Well, especially when you come back.
Yeah.
You know, and then you can play Midwest shows or whatever. It's like you can revisit a whole bunch of friends all at one point in time because you have like a really good excuse to do so. The busier you get, the less time you have for personal friendships. Not that you don't want to have them, but you just have a lot going on. Something like a show is kind of a perfect way. You know, it's like having a birthday party. You can get everyone together all at one point in time. So how does Laska's music differ from your own? When you're writing music, how do you decide what's for you, what's for Laska?
That's a good question. I like to give the opportunity for Laska to have like my favorite songs, you know, and see if it kind of fits the vibe, see if I can hear harmonies, see if I can hear guitar parts, see if I can hear like what would fit with that song. Yeah, I like to give Laska like the first, you know, opportunity, and then any songs that kind of just like don't make the cut, Not to like downplay the songs that are my solo stuff, because I think they are very like their own and very great. But maybe if it just doesn't fit the mold of like the album or, you know,
so
the
if
vibe.
something doesn't make the cut and now it's just on you, the thing is it doesn't make the cut as far as like working with this, right? But then you take it on your own and you can still develop it further anyways.
Yeah.
You know, and it can become something really, really beautiful that just doesn't fit, like you said, the mold of what Laska's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Which, how do you describe Laska if it fits a mold?
I mean, honestly, Laska is very like I said, like it's a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it has an exact mold or like an exact genre, but you can kind of tell when a song is like gonna fit with a lot of other production and, you know, where my sisters fit on that song.
Yeah.
Because I have some songs that I'm just like, well, this should just be me and a guitar, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like those songs kind of just like are more my solo project.
So what happens if you have a song that you really envision 3 of the members should fit on this song, but it doesn't work for everything with Laska? Like only one of your sisters is going to be the right harmony. How do you decide? Is that going to be like a feature with some other person on your song on your own project? Or is it Laska, except this song doesn't feature everybody?
Well, we definitely do have some songs in Laska that don't, you know, not all of us sing or play.
Yeah.
I also don't necessarily like have a complete vision of a song when I write it.
Right.
I kind of just like try it with Laska, see how it goes, see if like parts fall into place.
Yeah.
If not, then that's fine. And
Sure.
if so, that's amazing.
Is there a person within the group that really kind of like manages and gets everything fine tuned? You know what I mean? Like somebody who takes the rough draft and is like, okay, I envision each of you does this. It's all kind of coming together, but kind of takes that leadership role. Is that Evan, or how does that work out?
I would say we all do, but Evan definitely takes the lead on that as well as the producer. You know,
Sure.
He'll definitely mention if he hears something different or if he wants to add something, or we're all open to that always.
So I've always been curious about this. When you're trying to travel around, it's not like you have a network at all these random cities yet, because you've never been to a lot of these. Or that's the point, right? When you go on tours to visit new cities to reach new audiences and whatnot. Mm-hmm. How does that work? How do you get set up to do it? How do you even get the funding to do it? Do you usually get like the festival to pay you for it? Do you have to provide them with like, here's my press kit and you really want to hire us to be here at this thing? It's a lot of work that goes into putting together all these different stops and figuring out how everyone can afford it and all that. How does that kind of work?
It's a lot of work. And Hannah, the oldest, does a lot of the tour managing and like kind of putting the shows together, as well as Evan. I help where I can, but it's not really my forte. I'm not very good at emailing. So it is a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time to like create a tour and then to reach out to venues, reach out to other bands, you know, and it's definitely like we have to budget a lot. Yeah. And a lot of the money comes out of pocket. It's just something that we are willing to sacrifice, like, you know, for. Yeah. And obviously we are so privileged to even be able to do it at all. Like, I feel very blessed. But yeah, it is a lot of work, and it's not like, it's a long process.
Yeah. I mean, it's its own business, right?
Yeah.
You know, even like with me, as I put together all this stuff and as I'm doing the show, I'm reinvesting money that I'm making, or just spending money purely on microphones or whatever, with the intent of like, well, theoretically later on, money hopefully would come back. But really, you're just investing to create this business, and a band is its own business in its own kind of way. Who handles the rest of the sides of the business? Is there like a social media star? Is there somebody like who does what kind of role of it? Because it can't all be just on Hannah. That would be a little ridiculous.
I mean, Hannah does a lot. Okay. I will give credit where credit's due.
Sure.
We all kind of pitch in for social media and other things. I mean, Bex and Hannah both tag teamed the merch this round.
Like they did the design and stuff of it?
Yeah, Bex and one of our good friends, Leah, did the design. And then Hannah and our oldest sister, Meredith, who's not a part of the band, helped sew all of the patches that we created onto thrifted t-shirts.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we all do as much as we can. I think we try to split the load, but Hannah does a lot.
Sure. So when you're selling merch, like, is it after the show and before the show, one of you sits at the merch table the whole time? And what kind of merch, what's like unique about it? What are you trying to do with it? Are any of you interested in like, I kind of want to make this its own almost clothing brand, but it's like us? Or is it just very like, this is opportunistic. I found these right now and let's just do this thing because I saw it?
Well, merch is a really big part of being able to feed our tours.
Right.
That's where we make a lot of our funds for that. So that's a big part of it, but also it's just really fun to create. And I like, doing our thrifted tees and the patches was more creative version of what we've done in the past.
Yeah.
But we sit at the merch table before and after shows. We rely on the generosity of other people. So it's like, it's a lot of, it's much appreciated, but yeah.
Yeah, it is. And, to give credit to yourselves as well, like it's something that you earn. People don't pay money for streaming music anymore, really, right? So if they want something to exist, they have to help fund it in some way. And you're providing them with some form of entertainment, and beyond just entertainment, you're providing them with an art. They appreciate the art. It is generous of them to buy shirts and stuff for sure. But I would also encourage anybody that like listens to a band, you kind of owe them a little bit in my mind, because they're giving you something for free. Like you could do something for them. So I tell people all the time for my show, like you can join my Patreon, or like you can go donate on PayPal or whatever.
Yeah.
When I fly out to LA or something and I'm doing interviews, a lot of times I'll throw on my Instagram story like, hey, I'm spending a whole bunch of money to be here. If you guys appreciate the show, like it'd be really dope. I'm not gonna be mad if you don't, but it'd be cool. And it's like pretty often I think that people show that appreciation because they spend money on other things. Mm-hmm. They spend a bunch of money on Netflix and Hulu and Spotify and all this other stuff. You think like their favorite creators they can spend money with.
Yeah.
What about music videos? Because I saw you guys have like a few. What's the most recent music video that you guys did?
Oh, I think the most recent one we did Dog Bite and Funhouse at the same time. We released both those recently.
Where were the locations for that?
We filmed both of those in LA.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We filmed Dog Bite in like Malibu, like kind of in the mountains of Malibu. And then
bougie.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. And then Funhouse we filmed in like a little abandoned like desert park.
Yeah. How did those come together? Did you hire a creative director? Or did you just like have a friend who had a camera that wanted to do like, how did it work?
We have a friend who does film and photography, Keegan.
Yeah.
He also plays drums with us.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So he's, I think, filmed almost all of our music videos.
And he did all the editing and everything for
yeah.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what a champ. Is he somebody he works for other people and does music videos?
Yep.
Like other people
Mm-hmm.
can hire him? How would they be able to find him? Just curious.
Keegan Burkhardt on Instagram.
How do you spell Burkhardt?
I think it's Burckhard.
All right, so we'll credit him. So tell me more about the album. What made you want to do it, and what's different about the current album than like the previous ones? How did it change? Because obviously things change. You moved away and there's a whole bunch of stuff that went on, but what's different about this one?
We're constantly developing our writing style. And so I think each album changes a lot, and just the way where I think our voices become more mature.
Yeah, of course.
And they just like, our storytelling gets better. So I would say it's just developed in that way, naturally. Yeah. I think the sound is a little bit different, maybe just from influence of Los Angeles and that kind of different environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which gives it kind of an eclectic taste then.
Yeah.
Because you don't have too much like Malibu mixed with, Wisconsin.
No.
You get to have that uniqueness. Do you do a lot of shows out there now? Like, are you guys getting booked for stuff out there, or is that just way too inconvenient because other people got to fly out?
It's in the process. We'd like to play shows in LA. We just haven't had the opportunity yet. I mean, it is a lot of coordinating. So,
sure.
Yeah.
It's difficult to get out there. Even when I go out there, I'm like constantly texting friends like, so who's got a couch?
Yeah.
Because like this
totally.
is crazy. Like even not nice apartments hotels are crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's get to the song on the album. What's the song that you wrote that's on this one, and tell me the story behind it?
So I think I'll go with People Pleaser. That's the song.
That's me. That's what I do.
Yeah. And so I wrote that song actually here at the studio. That's why it's so fitting. I think while we were tracking, someone else was tracking. I just went outside and started writing.
Yeah.
And that song just kind of like flowed out. It's kind of about like how being a people pleaser is ultimately like something that just builds resentment against the people in your life. And it's not healthy.
Totally.
So it was kind of just like me starting to write in this perspective of like, are you tired of being this way yet? Like, this is so exhausting, and it's, hurting you and everyone around you. And so it was kind of that like dance between holding myself accountable and then like
feeling like grace for myself and forgiving myself and trying to like just, I guess, change.
Yeah. Well, I'm jealous that you figured it out earlier because I'm 32 and I'm like finally trying to lock it in and realize like I don't have to do anything to please other people. In fact, if I do things that I just like, people tend to like them better anyways, rather than if I'm like trying to do something that I think somebody else likes.
Yeah.
You wrote that song while you were tracking and then finished it and recorded it all in the same time frame, or you came back to it?
We came back to it.
Oh, okay.
I actually have written a lot of songs at the studio just like in, downtime.
Sure.
And then, or at least started them here.
Yeah.
And then, developed them over the years and then eventually recorded them.
When you record, do you drive back in every single day from like the Twin Cities or from a friend's house in Menominee, or do you tent out in the backyard with a campfire and like get in the vibe? What happens?
We usually stay in Baldwin with our mom.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I have a few friends in Menominee I crash with.
Oh, cool. Well, hopefully you don't have to please them too much to let it, have them stay on your couch, or you can stay on their couch. Let's hit the song People Pleaser.
Are you tired yet of counting your mistakes? People pleaser, has it hurt you enough? Enough to draw the line? Are you someone you don't recognize? You see all of your friends and they talk so loud without being embarrassed, and you're so jealous. How do they move so flawless and proud? You almost hate them for it now. He's back with that man that follows you around just to count the times you fall. And then he carves that number into your skin just to paint over it. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't want to be a sad soul forever. And for a moment I can see the big picture. There is still something alive in me. You go out again and you stand and you watch everybody feel good for themselves, and you know deep down it's a choice to tear down what you've built around yourself, and you're getting fucking fed up with what you've convinced yourself you are. I don't know how I feel about this anymore. I keep expecting to wake up with an answer, and for a moment I can see the big picture. There is still something alive in me. There are times the trees move out the window in slow motion, and songs remind you that you're mortal, and there's a brief fear tomorrow might be lonely, but right now you're at the edge of something and you can feel the wind moving. The pain seems funny now. There is still a feeling that I haven't done enough. There is still a feeling that I haven't done enough.
So stoked to share another song from people in my zone. I feel like the music industry around here is so underappreciated. People don't really know what's going on because it doesn't like get the same social media attention and it just doesn't get the same kind of eyes. But the crazy part is you go to like music festivals and you'll see like Blue Ox as an example. You'll see how huge the crowd is to see this person that you go look them up on like Spotify or social media and like their numbers are super low in comparison to how many people were just watching them. So
Yeah,
like, I feel like it's not this, you know what I mean? Like people don't understand how cool the situation is or really how big of a fan base or anything like they have because it's just not directly attached to social media. You know what I'm saying? Versus like you go to like big cities, a lot of times I think a lot of it all comes rather than from going to shows. People will grow this following and everything from just social media alone, even though they don't actually have as big of a fandom. I feel like it's a little bit of a facade in that kind of a way anyways.
Yeah.
So how's things been with you staying here while they left? Is it just like tears with coffee every single morning? Like, oh no, music's over? Or like, were you excited they were gone because they were out of your space and you could focus on music yourself and writing? Or how's it been?
I mean, I think there was a little bit of both of those things. Like I was really sad when I learned that they were both going to move at first, but it did give me like space to write for my own project. And then I also joined another band in the city. So I've still been playing quite frequently.
Okay,
around.
so you're Hannah and you are the oldest? Which one are you? Oldest one. Okay, sorry. How big of an age difference is there between the three of you?
There's like a year and a half between each of us.
Oh, so it was quick.
Yeah.
Your parents got it done. Cool.
Yeah, they were
Rad.
like boom, 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 done.
Yeah. My kids are 3.5 years apart, and I was trying to have them quick, but it just doesn't always work that way for everybody. So, what's been the music for you? You joined another band, which is called what? And how is it different than Laska? What drew you to want to do it? Because adding more to your plate just because doesn't seem like the move.
It's called Harlow, and I'd say it's like kind of similar. It might be more like on the countryside.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, my friend Sam, like, he was like, I'm starting a new band and looking for someone to play violin. And that was kind of, I had to like just started getting back into violin because I also like rebelled against it. I was like, I've been doing violin since I was 5. Like I played violin in church. I just didn't think it was cool at all. So I like didn't want to play it ever again. And then came back to it later in life. And so Harlow was like a chance for me to get back into playing violin, which is really cool.
Yeah, well, I think you can't like have such a closed mind on an instrument or a genre of music or on anything. Everything is a spectrum. Like everything in the world is a spectrum. And the same way with music, you can use an instrument in a lot of different ways. You know, just the music like alone, the instrument can make a lot of different sounds, but you can put it together with different things. Like it doesn't have to be limited. And I actually think like some of the coolest music is when you have a song that has an instrument that you weren't really expecting and it like is different with that genre. So I think that's rad. How has your violin changed since you started doing that? Are you like trying different things with it? Because you're not just seeing an instructor and doing a bunch of orchestra stuff. Like how did it change? How do you learn?
Just like playing around, playing with different people and like playing different other people's songs. I feel like I've leaned more into like the fiddle side of violin. So like doing a lot of slides whenever they're appropriate. And like, I also play through, reverb pedal and sometimes a distortion pedal just to like change up the sound. So sometimes the violin in that band like sounds more like a synth, but I think it sounds cool and we all kind of like it.
Does that work when you're playing live or is that like a struggle?
Yeah, no, it works live too.
Awesome. So do you sing as well in that or is it exclusive? How do you sing when you're like doing the violin thing?
Usually I'll like play violin on a verse and then sing on a chorus or...
Yeah, you can't really possibly do both in the same kind of way.
Yeah, you can if you're like doing like Oz, you can kind of play violin and do it, but if you're like trying to do something too complicated, it doesn't really work.
Are you doing your own stuff as well, like just purely single stuff? Or is it
like solo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I also do solo stuff.
Okay, so you dictate like certain days a week are to what? How do you find time for 3 different musical projects plus working? I know the bills aren't as crazy in Minneapolis, but they're not cheap there either.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Laska's like only in short periods of things since we all live in different places. So it'll be like 2 weeks are for Laska, right? In the summer. And then like I'll practice with Harlow once a week, and then my solo project is just like whenever there's time.
Sure. But didn't your sister say you do a lot of the like managing and different behind the scenes work? So do you just not do that for Harlow then? Like you put
not
that
on
much, somebody else?
That's somebody else's job in that band.
So if somebody DMs you guys, who answers? Is it you?
Probably me, yeah.
Does everybody see it and you're just the dedicated person to respond most of the time?
I feel like I usually just see it first.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll respond. If it's like a question, obviously I'll like send it to everybody and be like, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
But
well, so for my store, I have multiple people are on my store's Instagram.
Yeah.
So I end up missing messages because somebody else who has access to the account saw the message. I don't see the notification and I just like never see it.
Yeah, that actually used to happen a lot. People would like open the message and not respond. So I was like, hey guys, either don't open the message or tell me so that I can respond to it. So
Sure.
That was like a rule that we had to make.
So music and growing it, a lot of things have to come from social media and internet and whatnot these days, because it's honestly things like your Instagram and whatever are kind of like your own portfolio to show people like this is who we are visually. This is blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What tools have you used to be able to build some kind of a culture and an audience behind Laska? Like what's been the most effective for you? What's the strategy?
I think we rely on Bex a lot for that. She's like the visual person. So I think we usually just like take her lead on all that kind of stuff.
Sure. But you grow, like, how do you grow stream numbers? Like if that's like a goal, what's your strategy to how do you get people to listen to the music in other areas? Is it exclusively when you go to a show, you just like get on the mic and try to hammer people, go listen to this on Spotify and add it to your playlist? Or how do you get people to, do that?
Partially that. Also just like there's like a Submit Hub is a website that you can just like try to get on random people's playlists.
Yeah.
And then just ask people to put it on playlists is really all you can do right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think doing all the groundwork via social media or via the internet in that kind of way, there's so many people out there hustling that if you're not, you kind of just fall behind.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You can't really afford to do that.
Right.
Are you guys on any radio stations and stuff? Or is that even something you want to do? Radio's like has its own place. I don't want to say it's phasing out, although it is in its own way because I'm on the radio and I'm not trying to downplay how cool that is.
Yeah.
But like it's just kind of a different audience there. And obviously if your song plays on the radio, now you don't have those streams for your blah, blah, blah. But it obviously has its place too. So are you trying to do that?
Yeah, we actually, this album, The Current was playing the 2 singles quite a bit after they came out.
That's in the cities, right? A fairly big station there.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that was really exciting. We've been trying to like get on The Current for a while, and they've put us like on the local show a few times, but now it's like actually in rotation, and all of my friends and coworkers were like, I heard Laska on the radio today, and it was like happening at least once a week, so that was really fun.
Nice. So with this show, we cut out snippets and we put those on. So it's on 2 radio stations. Converge Radio is where the full version is. And then on 95.9 Jams, they take like little snippets from the episodes.
Oh, cool.
And many times people will send me text messages because they're like, oh, I just heard this person or whatever. So you guys get to have that. I'll try to do enough snippets so that way everybody has their little time to shine on Eau Claire, where people are like, I heard you on 95. I know it's like kind of a hip hop channel, but like you guys are on there.
Sweet.
It's like sweet local fame. I like to call it Eau Claire famous.
Yeah.
Because you know what I mean? It's not famous, but like everyone in Eau Claire already knows each other.
Yeah.
But when you're on the radio, I feel like even more people know who you are. There's been a few times where people have recognized me via my voice or something.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, whoa. Not that it really means much because it's a small town, but still, it happens and it's kind of cool. So what are your goals with Laska right now? What's the plan? You guys put out an album? Are you like, I really want to go on a big international tour? Like what are you trying to do? What are the hopes?
I think one real big hope is that we could like find a tour spot opening up for a band that we like.
Oh, cool.
So we're trying to like reach out to managers of those bands and just be like, hey, keep us in mind if you're looking for an opener. And then
is that how it typically goes? Is you find their managers, or do you just like try to hit them up directly or anything?
I don't really know. I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that management probably is more thinking about like that kind of thing. But also we want to do some festivals next summer, so we're trying to start applying to those and hopefully get a couple spots.
Yeah. Have you done a lot of festivals before, or what's like the biggest audience you can remember performing for?
We haven't done a lot of festivals. We've done a couple festivals.
Which ones?
we played Ashley for the Arts a couple years ago, which is in Arcadia.
Yeah, they actually have some pretty big people there, don't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah.
I always wonder how in the world a furniture store gets a hold of these people.
I have no clue either.
I suppose it all comes down to certain amounts of dollars or whatever. But so
Right.
so you performed there, and then what was the other festival you did?
Oh, we did play Blue Ox like the first or second year, I think.
That it was around?
Yeah.
Because it's like 8 years around. So
Okay,
it would
I
have been
don't
6
know.
years ago?
That might be right, honestly.
Oh, okay. So it's been a while, and you're not like currently on a whole million festivals.
Yeah.
So what happens if you get booked up by everything? Are you just going to quit? Or you work some kind of job, I assume, right now,
Yeah.
yeah? What do
Some
you
kind
do
of
for
job.
work?
I work in tree care.
Cool.
Prune trees.
Rad. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty fun.
How do you find a job doing that?
When the pandemic happened, I was like working in a restaurant that closed. So I was like,
Yeah.
where can I work outside? And then I just found this job, and I was like, started in a different department. And then I learned that you can climb trees as a job. So I was like, I want to go do that. And they were like, okay, here you go. And
How
that's what
far
I
up do you climb?
Depends on the tree, but I don't know. Most of them are like 40 feet tall, I'd say.
How do you do it with like the little rope thing? Like you go up, you know what I mean? Or do you use
Yeah,
a ladder?
I
How do you
mean,
do it?
Yeah, like you use this little ball that's full of sand, and you throw it up in the tree, and that's how you get your rope up there. And then just climb
And
up
you
the rope.
scale it like Batman?
Yeah, I mean, you can use the tree also to like help you out.
Oh, okay. What is your sound specifically? What is it that you bring to the band? Because everybody like sings and you play violin, but like what is it about you that people really enjoy with your music?
That's a good question. I feel like people have told me that my writing has a lot of like imagery in it, and I think that's what I try to focus on as well. So
Who do you draw inspiration from with that? Do you read like novels like Harry Potter and go, how do they figure out descriptive words? Or what?
I do read a lot, but not Harry Potter.
I'm a huge Harry Potter
no
fan.
hate
so
on
you don't
Harry
have to, I was
Potter.
going to say, come on, that's like the best-selling book ever.
We weren't allowed to like. Our mom was really religious when we were growing up. We weren't allowed to
Oh.
watch and read a bunch of stuff, and Harry Potter
Sure.
happened to be one of those things. So.
Okay. So what are some of your favorite books?
The Color Purple is probably my number one favorite. I just read a book called The Language of Flowers, which was really cute and pretty.
I'm not familiar with either of them. What's one of your favorite books, and why should I go read it?
The Color Purple was actually one of the books that made me like really start to question my religious upbringing and like turn to nature as more of like my deity of choice.
Oh, cool.
So it was like kind of life changing for me to read it, and I've read it a couple times now, and like every time I read it, I'm just like I bring myself back to that moment.
Sure. And you take that into your own music too then.
Yeah.
What are you trying to do with your own music? Is it literally just like you're bored, or is it to experiment with different types of like sounds or something? Or like what is your own music and where can people find that?
My solo stuff is more like on the pop side of things, and definitely I try to experiment more. I have an EP out. My project is called Kitchen Congregation, and I like had a bunch of different friends produce stuff on it and just wanted to like go crazy and see what I could do and what it would sound like.
How many songs are on that?
4.
And it's like a friend group EP.
I mean, it's my EP, but like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
like had a bunch of friends and
Cool.
work on it with me.
Okay, so what's a song that you wrote on the new album?
One of them that I want to talk about is called Purple Blue.
Okay, tell me about it.
It's kind of, I've always considered myself not a hopeless romantic, but like a patient romantic.
Okay.
And one day I was like sitting in a really busy parking lot, and there was people walking by everywhere, and I just saw them all like holding hands and kissing each other and like being all cute. And I felt like I could physically like see an aura of color around them that was just like I think writers often think of themselves as like observers. So that was like one of those moments where I was just like, I can like feel what's happening over there. And I just was like, I guess kind of wistful for it and like wanted that. And I know that's like a subject that could become really cheesy or cliche in writing. So when I was writing the song, I wanted it to be like grounded in imagery and like kind of abstract. And yeah.
And the
Purple Blue
aura
came out of
was
that.
purple. Is that your favorite color? Is that why your hair is purple?
Right now it might be my favorite color, but
But it changes all the time.
yeah.
Okay, well, awesome. Let's hit to the song. It's called Purple
Purple Blue.
Isn't that just indigo?
Purple and blue.
Okay.
Petrified by what you might find. You analyze, but don't define. I see the daylight turn to gray, but the night forgets to fall. Like the bright of a fresh snow keeps it looming. I see the light between their lips as it narrows into nothing. I see the light between their bodies till it's gone. I see purple, blue, red, violet, pink. I want to live in the way they think. I would sacrifice my breath, I would sacrifice my breath. Against my best advice, I'd welcome the torment. Many hands I've held, a few of them I've even felt. But someone's hands always seem to grow cold. I see the colors all around, but I can't feel them. In the narrowing of the space between them, fingertips finding their home in the other again. In the moments when they think nobody's watching. Purple, blue, red, violet, pink. I want to live in the way they think. I would sacrifice my breath, I would sacrifice my breath. Against my best advice, I'd welcome the torment. Purple, blue, red, violet, pink. I want to live in the way they think. I would sacrifice my breath, I would sacrifice my breath. Against my best advice, I'd welcome the torment.
So indigo. So what's the string? No, purple,
Purple
blue.
blue.
What's with the string arrangement on that?
So our bass player Robbie Weissar wrote a really beautiful string arrangement for it, and our friend Kylene King out in Portland played the parts, and yeah, it really adds a new layer, a new direction.
Do they record it remotely, or are they flying
Yeah,
from Portland?
yep. So it's as simple as send in like a reference mix, and then Kylene records it at her spot and sends me the tracks.
Wow. Does she do all the I feel like trying to get all the timing and everything would be hard to do if you're not in the same place with one producer or one music engineer to tell you you got to change this thing. She's just uber talented then?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So what's your name? You're Evan. What's your last name?
Middlesworth.
Okay, so tell me your story briefly because we don't have a whole lot of
Yeah,
time. You're from
we don't have
where?
a whole
You're
lot of
here
time.
now and you're the only one based in Eau Claire, which is because Eau Claire is the best town. No offense to
Yeah.
them.
Well, I guess the nickel tour of my life in music. I've been playing music since I was really little, about 5 or 6. Got really into recording in high school. Went off to college at Purdue University. Started the recording studio LLC in my apartment at 19. Graduated from college. Moved to Seattle for 6 years. Played in bands. Composed music for theaters. Played in theater pit as a pit musician, and then moved here in 2009, as we were talking about earlier. And it was kind of a gold mine. I had no idea what was going on here. And we really lucked out. So
Yeah, I mean, we're on the come up in this city, but people don't know that we're on the come up.
yeah, which is kind of cool.
Well, yeah, it's dope to be at the forefront of something, especially something that's growing, because you can find your position within what this is rather than trying to like reach for scraps. There's just a lot of room to start things. So who's the first person you worked with here? Because this would have been a little while ago before Laska.
Oh, man, yeah. I actually worked with the Menominee hip-hop artist named Eddie Jensen, and it was great. And he saw the studio when it was like nothing, basically just this big open shell. This was a pole barn that was here, and I just had the studio itself was basically this corner. I don't know if you can see that, but this corner was the studio, and then the rest of it was just like all of our. Can I say shit on this podcast?
You say whatever you want. I mean, it's on the radio, so I'll edit that out for the radio specifically.
All the stuff that we moved here in was like I parked my Jeep right on the other side of this wall. So he was the first, and then it just I built it up as interest grew, and with each new band that came in, like there was a band called Beacon James, and they were the reason why I built this separating wall between the live room and the control room, it just continued to grow.
And you do a lot more than just music. How come? Why don't you just... I feel like after all this time, you probably could make it exclusively just music. Is it because you like having a diversity of things that you spend your time doing, or what?
I do, yeah. I plateau kind of easily in things, So if I just do one thing for about 2.5 years, I get bored.
Yeah.
And so, plus the other thing I learned early on, well, I thought when you were like learning how to play an instrument, you had to know how everything worked,
Yeah.
So I was just sort of misguided from the get-go. So I thought you had to know how to record and like manage bands and like book shows and do everything yourself. And so I just thought, well, this is what you do. And so I learned all that stuff. But then I learned in reality, like when I graduated college, that a lot of people need a lot of help. And I had experience in a lot of different things. And so if someone was like, do you want to go on tour? Sure. Do you want to supervise a tech support department at an audio company? Sure. And I just started saying yes to stuff.
Yeah.
And that really led to a really diverse, career, basically.
Yeah. Well, when you're able to do a lot of different things, you can kind of switch it up. I do art, and then I have my store, and then I do my show. And between the different things, I don't have to spend any significant amount of time on one thing. Sometimes I have one project that takes a little bit of time or something. But I think if I exclusively did my show, especially if I just edited the amount that I do, I would start to hate it like super quick, because it's way too much time that goes into just that one thing. But I can kind of space my time between different things. What are your goals? What are you trying to work towards? Because Alaska's not the only goal. That's one project you have.
Yeah.
What are you even trying to do? Or are you just coasting through what you're doing?
I wouldn't say I'm coasting. I just want to get to the end of it all and have some great memories and cool stories to tell.
Yeah.
And so that's, outside of music, flying is a big passion for me. And so, like I was mentioning earlier, I'm a flight instructor now, and just doing things that I think are cool. And, I have this part of my brain. It's like, well, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, totally.
And so, I just do those things. And, there's a local singer-songwriter named Billy Krause that I love very dearly, and he's got the coolest stories, right? And it's like, man, I just want to be like Billy someday. I just want to sit down and just tell these stories, and people are like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you can enjoy the journey. I remember I interviewed this dude, Ian Allison. I don't know if you know him. He's out of Minneapolis. He's a bass player who plays with several different people, and he does studio stuff too. But he was telling me that one of the secrets to his career is what he says yes to is whatever just gives him the feeling of like, cool, like when he thinks about it.
What's exciting you?
Yeah, he
for sure
goes. And I found that as I've gotten older and tried different things, most people just build something up to be something in their mind that's way more difficult than it is. And even if something's difficult, it's doable. If you're willing to work at it. Sometimes you might be biting off more than you can chew, but the majority of the time, even if you don't know what you're doing, if you're willing to just like actually go all in on it, you're typically capable.
Yeah, for sure.
People think they aren't capable because somebody else, I don't know, said in an interview that this was like impossible and was so hard or whatever, but they're just trying to turn people away. It's very possible.
Yeah.
You can do whatever.
Yeah.
I started the show with my laptop with no mics, and I was able to get like the very first episode on the radio. Yeah. And I had like, you can just do it. It's not that crazy hard.
Yeah. Trial by fire, I think is a healthy thing. Just jump in and do it. And that's, in this industry, that's huge. You know, someone's asked you, hey, can you do this? You know, you go, oh yeah, for sure, I got it. Even if you might have no idea. But if you have that wherewithal to study up and figure it out and be a good person while you're doing it, then you know, you gain experience by doing that, and you're helping people.
I think faking it till you make it is like such a true thing people don't realize.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I've worked with people where I'm like, that was the first time you did that?
Yeah.
And they're like,
Oh,
yeah. I was like, oh, sick.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell.
Well, you got to take, you know, opportunities when they come.
Yeah,
you got to say yes, because there's, you know, a lot of people that are waiting in line behind you that will say yes immediately.
Yeah.
And if you're kind of hemming and hawing about stuff or saying no all the time, then people are just going to stop asking you.
Yeah.
It's just plain and simple.
Yeah, well, and you can't wait for the perfect opportunity because that doesn't happen.
It doesn't exist.
No, the one that is going to work out for what you want to do if you're willing to work hard, those are the opportunities that pop up.
Yeah.
So why does Laska want to keep coming all the way out here to work with you specifically? Is it because your guitar is like on a whole different level, or what's the deal? What do you bring to the band? Why do they love working with you?
Question. You know, I've worked with a lot of bands, you know, either as just like producing their record, and then, you know, we hang for, you know, 7 to 10 days, make a record, and then they go out and play shows and do stuff. But I've always just tried to become a member of the team. Even if it's, you know, 10 days, or if it is some bands I play with, you know, it is a little bit longer. I live by 2 pretty simple rules. Try to show up on time and be a cool hang. And that's worked out for a lot of different artists that I've worked with, you know, outside of Laska. I think it was kind of touched on a little bit earlier. You know, we've got a good working relationship, and once you get that, it's tough to let go of, you know, and it's hard to find, you know.
Yeah, people like to work with people that they like.
For sure.
That's the thing, is there's a million people good at what you do. Like there just are a lot of people who are just as good at whatever the thing is you're good at as you are. So what sets you apart is professionalism, hard work, and then being likable.
Yeah.
You know, and I found, like, when I've interviewed more and more famous people from whatever industry they do, almost all of them are just the coolest people to be around.
Yeah.
And I always thought they would be standoffish for some reason. I don't know why I built that in my mind to be that way, but obviously they aren't, because if they were, people wouldn't have wanted to work with them over this whole period of time. Right. So typically, if you just have that attitude, that's what really carries you anyways. And you only want to work with people that you like. So it makes a whole lot of sense. There's people that I know would be fantastic to do some kind of work with, but I can't stand being around them. So I'm just not going to work with them.
Correct.
You know, and I mean, once in a while, there'll be somebody that's the exception to that, where it's like, I just know this work is what I appreciate enough that I'll just do it. But that's going to be, you know, the rare scenario.
Yeah.
How do you go on tour with them? Because, like, if you're involved doing music with all these people, and Laska wants to go on this tour, but this band wants to go on this tour, but you have flying things to do. Like, how do they want to work with you for that? Do they sub in somebody else to play your part in the guitar, or what works?
No, we actually, I'm a big, commitment fan. And so I've, you know, as of half, they actually don't know this, but I got asked to tour manage, Bonnie Light Horseman in June, but we had a tour booked. So that's what I'm doing.
Oh,
yeah.
Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to be like a man of your word, or a person of your word in general. Your word is your most, like, valuable asset that you have. The second people can't trust what you have to say, they're not going to want to work with you anymore.
Right.
Again,
Exactly.
regardless of, like, what money or anything else you bring to the table.
Yeah. So my schedule is a special thing, and my calendar's pretty tight. But yeah, I just try and stay as true to my word and my commitments as I can. And you know, we all make it out. We all make sacrifices to tour. So
how do you say no when an opportunity comes up you know you really, really, really want to do, but you have commitments?
Well,
do you try to dodge around it and tell them to come back to it, or like?
No, I mean, it's something that you can't do all the cool stuff, you know. And so say I'm touring with my band, I can't do it. Stay in touch, and people do. People respect that. They and in this business they expect that too. Not everybody's going to be ready at the drop of a hat to roll out with you. So planning ahead is really important to me if we can. Yeah, just navigating the schedule.
So you guys are going to go on a tour here coming up at some point. I know by the time this episode comes out, there's probably already going to be all these announcements, which is going to be really exciting. And it's all around this album. So what's the song that you helped write on this album, and what's the story behind it?
I kind of help out where I can on every song, and in some cases it might just be the arrangement of it. Like add this little thing here that wasn't in the demo type of thing. I really like the song "Linear." It's fun to play live. Hannah and I have kind of these kind of cool counter guitar parts that I'm really proud of. It wasn't that difficult to get there, but I just like that kind of thing. It messes with your ears a little bit. It's all harmonic, but it's just interesting. It's an interesting song, but it's my favorite kind of song because it doesn't sound like it's difficult. It's easy for the brain to digest. There's nothing over the top about it, but the parts in it, I think, are very interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's what comes down with like nuance and stuff, right? You can do something really well without it being incredibly complicated. Some people want to just try to decorate themselves with as many difficult things as possible. And it's not just music, to try to like, I don't know, peacock their way through. Everyone goes and looks at it like, oh, what's this? But it doesn't necessarily sound good. There's something to be said when you can simplify something and just do it well, and then people enjoy it.
Totally.
Awesome. Introduce that song one more time and let's get to it.
The song is called "Linear."
Sifting through old emotions, navigating what I'm left with, walking blindfolded into the unknown, side by side, hands unintertwined. This disease, though not contagious, sure does love company. Stalin here, mine wears a smile, but it still burns all the same. I'm always searching for what's next. Let it go and just be still. Oh, I'm so close. I was so close. I was so close, but now it's gone. Trapped inside my own space that is trapped inside, pretending I could fix myself with somebody else's heart. But hide and seek isn't so much fun when nobody's counting. Walk, 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 walk very slowly. Be careful. You wouldn't wanna put yourself in a place to be trampled. Now run, 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 run. How come if I'm fine, I feel so awful all the time? What would I gain from wallowing in my pain? But it won't go away. So I run, run, run.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.